Creedence Clearwater Revival is the sound of a hot, humid summer night with those swampy guitar twangs, chugging rhythms, and that Fogerty yowl. And Green River is definitely an album you should own. This album epitomises that classic Creedence sound in all its glorious swampiness as Fogerty growls, shouts and scats his way through these numbers. And it's a vocal style that's very reminiscent of Howling Wolf. Interestingly, Don Heckman in the Stereo Review has written that the album is a synthetic interpretation of Black Delta-style blues, with all the guts, emotion, disjunct rhythms and sometimes indecipherable black dialect, slicked up and packaged with a country green ribbon for all the white folks. And their music seems to speak of the life in these deep country backwoods, although Creedence hail from San Francisco, even if their music or their sound doesn't. A sound that steered clear of many of the psychedelic tropes favoured by bands like The Dead or the Quicksilver Messenger Service. Creedence certainly eschewed that acid-inspired freeform jams favoured by their peers for a more rootsy music with a unmistakable rockabilly edge. And with its tightly constructed numbers, John Fogerty has hailed this as the finest of Creedence albums, saying in his autobiography, "I felt like that one hit the bullseye at the centre of my soul." But Green River is a dark album. There was this ironic friction between the lyrics and the band playing this almost carefree rock and roll music. And they play it so joyously as to successfully mask the more sinister messages or sentiments behind Fogerty's songs. You get a number like Bad Moon Rising, which has been described as the Book of Revelation put to a rockabilly beat. It is undoubtedly a collection of numbers that explores looming death, sin and hopelessness, all wrapped up in these steady rock rhythms, infectious guitar riffs and Fogerty's homely slur. Creedence Clearwater Revival created a rootsy, working-class sound, and artists like Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty are perhaps the true heirs. They certainly seem to buy into the atmosphere and ethics of Creedence. But more importantly, this album displays a sophistication in terms of songcraft that was only hinted at on the previous two albums. It's a very economical album, coming in at like 29 minutes. And as I said, Fogerty's songwriting has advanced on this album. He was writing continuously, exploring numbers that deal with fear, dread, weariness at its very core, from the allegory of the coming storm to something dark creeping around the edges of these numbers. I must admit I'd love to hear demos and outtakes from these sessions, but John Fogerty has said in his autobiography that he destroyed all the tapes because he didn't like the idea of somebody seizing these and releasing them without his permission or without his control. And of course we get Bad Moon Rising with its filched Scotty Moore riff, lifted straight from an Elvis number called I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone. But in this song, Bad Moon Rising, he sings, "I hope you got your things together, I hope you're quite prepared to die." It's biblical and apocalyptic. It's a world tainted with Old Testament sin, southern spit and further. And other songs explore that darkness, that fear and reckoning. A sinister purpose knocking at your door. A sinister purpose is very much about the concept of the devil, John Fogerty writes. That unspeakable dark force. We get the chaos and disorder expressed in the lyrics of Commotion and looming death in Tombstone Shadow. Interestingly, Commotion has been cited as a metaphor for the political and civil unrest in America at the time, although Fogerty, in an interview he did for Uncut Magazine in 2012, refutes this. The only idyllic tones to be found in Green River, of course, this wonderful pastoral, idealised vision of rural Americana. He sings, "Walking along the river road at night, barefoot girls dancing in the moonlight." Interesting, the song itself takes its name from a soda pop syrup label. Its infectious beats are definitely appealing. Rock and roll melded with this country twang of guitar. But what's interesting about this album is even the ballads have a melancholic twang to them, either a kind of a longing for a lost childhood, or express a sense of world weariness The song Lodi is a story of hitting rock bottom in a dead-end town. As one critic has pointed out, these are not the sentiments you'd expect to hear from Fogerty at this time, as Creedence were kind of on top of the world in 1969. Maybe it's indicative of Fogerty's inner turmoil, not to mention the internal strife within the band. Nevertheless, like a lot of the numbers on this album, its darker ideas and themes are underpinned by a pleasant melodicism. Wrote a Song for Everyone on this album bears a striking resemblance to the band's The Weight, although if I'm not mistaken, I think the Creedence album actually predates the band's second album, so I don't know what influenced what, or if there was an influence there. Interestingly, Uncut magazine called Crosstie Walker a quintessential Johnny Cash two-step with a nifty bass line and a tale about a hobo hopping a train and starting a new life. Stu Cook's bass line is fabulous in this song. He's very much an undersung member of this band, as I think Doug Clifford, who gives a steady beat. And that reliable strum of Tom Fogerty as well. And oddly, this album closes with a cover of The Night Time's the Right Time, which is a cover of a song by Nappy Brown. And my God, what a name, eh? But it was actually, that song rose to prominence, was made more famous, of course, by Ray Charles. But many have pointed out that this number, with its sexual theme and frisson, is a little bit at odds with Fogerty's dark narratives of rural life. Many critics argue that Creedence's music lacks variety, it lacks finesse, but I would argue that their distinctive driving sound and Fogerty's yowl, of course, results in something characteristic and unique. And Green River, which many see as a meditation on childhood, is a fine collection of songs that demonstrates how this band progressed from Susie Q. And it's an album that provides the most vivid and distinctive chapter in American rock since the band's music from the Big Pink. And that alone is a damn good reason why this is an album that you should own. So there you have it. That's my argument for why Green River is such a special album. You've been watching a video by Classic Album Review. I thank you for your support, your patronage, and I hope you will continue to do so. I just leave you with my closing salvo, which, as you know, is hope you're well, staying safe, but more importantly that you keep listening.